You're watching The Attorneys, a paid advertisement brought to you by the law firm of Hollis, Wright.
Car crashes, defective products, dangerous drugs, injuries, and abuse. Across the state of Alabama, The Attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis Wright, are here to serve you. Your tough legal questions answered by our experts with The Attorneys of Hollis Wright.
Hello and welcome. You are watching The Attorneys. I'm Art Franklin. On this show, we're talking about trucking companies, the rules that govern them on the road, and what to do if you should ever get into an accident with a truck. We've got a lot to unpack, but before we get to that, let's remind you that you can get in contact with someone at Hollis Wright right now. All you have to do is dial this number, 1-844-LAW-TALK. That's 1-844-LAW-TALK. Someone is standing by right now. They'll be manning the phones throughout the show, and it's a free, confidential call. As we get into this conversation about trucking, let me get over to my TV partner. We've been talking about that. Not my law partner, but my TV partner.
I'll take that too.
Wright.
I'll take that too.
Yeah.
What if I told you, Art, that 40% of all fatalities on our roads come from commercial vehicles with a passenger vehicle? And I told you over a 6-year period, a recent 6-year period, commercial vehicle accidents are up 10%.
I wouldn't be surprised.
You know what you'd want to do is you'd want to have an expert on to be able to talk to you about if you're involved in this. Number one, how do you prevent it? But if you are involved in one of these accidents, how do you get someone to help you? And D.W. Scott's on with us today.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on, man. Appreciate you coming on.
Good to be back.
First, tell us just a little bit about your practice and kind of how you got into this area of the law, because as you know, I do this law too, just like you.
Right.
But as you know, this is not something you just jump into. You got to understand the rules and how they apply and how you can use those to the advantage of someone who's been injured in a commercial vehicle accident.
Well, absolutely. I've been practicing for about 12 years now. It's hard to believe we were talking off air, just how quick, how time flies. But I got into this because I really wanted to help people, relatively naively so, I guess. Yeah. But I came straight out of law school, passed the bar, and hung my shingle right away. And I think maybe my third client was rear-ended by an 18-wheeler. Yeah. And so that was my first experience with it, and so I've been rocking and rolling ever since then.
What do you see? Like, I see these trends, and I saw that you put together in some of the material to get prepped for the show, some of these firm facts. But things are trending in a way where I would think technology is making operation of a commercial vehicle on our roads safer, yet at the same time it looks like it's still trending in a way that commercial vehicle accidents are just up. And so what do you really equate that to?
Really not sure, but I have some opinions about it. I think with technology and phones, people are distracted. Yeah. Even if they're commercial drivers, they're distracted. The other thing is the pressure on these truck drivers to get their load to a location within a certain time frame. So that could lead to speeding, and obviously if you're dealing with 80,000 pounds plus, it could cause a lot of carnage. Yeah.
I saw a statistic the other day, Art, that 20% of all accidents have some involvement with distraction, whether it's a cell phone or something else. That number, DW will tell you, is probably going to continue to go up until we do something about it. And hopefully we will eventually do something about it. There's technology out there right now that could limit your ability to use your cell phone in a vehicle for texting and whatnot, but that's a huge component to this whole thing.
Yeah, and throughout the show, we'll be offering facts like that, so you can get information. We like to keep you informed, DW. I'm just really wondering, what's the big difference between an accident with a regular vehicle, a car, and then an accident with a truck?
Right. So one major difference is you're dealing with apples to apples with one vehicle with another vehicle, SUV to an SUV, right? 4,000 pounds maybe, 3,000 pounds you're talking about. Obviously with an 18-wheeler with the load, they're carrying maybe 80,000 pounds, if not more. So take that sort of speed on the interstate, 70 miles per hour, 80,000, 90,000 pounds going up against a 4,000 pound vehicle. I mean, that's one thing. The other thing is that, there's these commercial truck drivers are held to a higher standard under the federal regulations. So they have a higher duty of safety on the road. as opposed to you or I. We all have to follow the rules of the road, but of course they are held to a higher standard.
And let's talk a little bit about that, because I think it's important. In a traditional commercial vehicle accident circumstance, you're not just holding that driver to the same thing that Art and you and I would be held to when we drive home. That is the Alabama rules of the road.
Right,
they have heightened standards and additional standards. Tell us a little bit about how that works and kind of how the regulation sets those standards.
Right, so thankfully there are federal regulations. And we don't want to pick on truck drivers. They do important work, right? They play an important role in our economy, getting things from point A to point B. But at the end of the day, they are carrying sometimes hazardous materials. And the weight discrepancy we talked about. So it can, get, when it comes to that, we have to make sure that they are regulated with respect to the hours that they're on the road.
Yeah.
They just can't drive for 18 hours straight. I mean, we all get tired, and so do they. So they're regulated heavily for the safety of everyone.
DW makes a great point too, because we will always get, when we do these shows, texts or emails or calls from people that are in this industry that say, look, not all people are doing it the wrong way. And he's 100% right. And I love to say that, because it's important that we're not here today talking about the truckers that are doing it the right way, that have committed their entire life to this existence and are doing it correctly, and they're safe and operating within the rules. We're talking about the folks that aren't doing it the right way. And that's where lawyers get involved to try and help people that have been injured in these accidents.
That's true. I'm just wondering what types of laws that actually govern what they do on the road and how they have to operate on the road, some of the common laws.
Yeah, so the federal regulations under the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration issues a bunch of different regulations with respect to how many hours they can drive, even the weight load capacity. And you can talk a little bit more about this. It's too many to discuss in detail, but they are held to a higher standard based on those federal regulations.
And here are some other examples that DW and I see on a real recent basis. Number one, they have to have background checks. Whereas when you operate your vehicle on the way home today, you're not going to have a background check to be able to operate for yourself or for a company. You would not have to do that, whereas a commercial vehicle has to have a background check. They have to actually check to determine what's that person's driving record. If you're involved in an accident, they have certain testing requirements immediately after an accident that lawyers always want to get access to determine, was that person impaired in some way, or are they on medication? They have to do actual physicals that are required every 2 years in order to maintain a medical card to be able to operate. So the regulations play an important role in making sure that those that are on the road driving these large commercial vehicles not only are doing it the right way, but that the regulations ensure that they're safe on the road and that they're healthy on the road to be able to do it. I know we're getting ready to go to break, because when we come back, I do want to unwrap a couple other issues. I want to talk a little bit about statute of limitations. I want to talk about how insurance works for passenger vehicles and then for commercial vehicles. Let's unwrap that when we come back, though.
Absolutely.
All right. And you heard Josh talk about some of the factors when we first started this segment. Throughout the show, we're going to be putting some of those facts on the screen so you can get more information about the topic that we're discussing right now. Also want to remind you, this is the time right now to reach someone at Hollis Wright by calling 1-844-LAW-TALK, and it's a free confidential call. We also made it easy for you by putting a QR code on the screen. You can scan that QR code. It's quick, it's easy, and you'll still reach someone at Hollis Wright. We'll take a break. We're talking about trucking companies. We'll continue that discussion here on The Attorneys right after this.
Here's some good information from our firm to you. Hollis Wright recently launched the Law Talk podcast. With podcasts becoming so popular, this will be a simple way to provide our loyal viewers with more opportunities to access information about important legal topics and to learn more about our firm and how we can help you if the need ever arises. There are many ways to access the Law Talk podcast. You can simply scan the QR code on your screen. Also, episodes are always available on the Hollis Wright YouTube channel, as well as on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you consume your podcasts. Just search up Hollis Wright in the Law Talk podcast. Don't wait, take advantage and listen today. Thanks for watching The Attorneys, and we know you'll enjoy the Law Talk podcast.
The Attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis Wright, are here to serve you.
When we started the show in 2011, my goal was to do what our firm does best. Help people answer questions related to real-world legal issues they have in their lives in a way that's not intimidating to talk with a lawyer. If the issue is important to you, it's equally important to us, and we're ready to talk with you at no cost.
Yeah, oftentimes people are confronting various legal issues in their lives that really run the gamut of a lot of different legal practice areas, such as bankruptcy, criminal law, civil law, such as personal injury, divorces, domestic relations. And to be able to have a show once a week that covers those practice areas and answers people's questions in those areas, that's really the main objective of the show.
We use the resources of the many lawyers at our law firm to create a plan that has a lasting impact for each person that calls or texts. And we also give back to the community at the same time. We are here to serve you, the viewer, each week on The Attorneys.
Addiction kills hope.
But at Bradford, it all changes here.
Experience the difference
that proven treatment can make.
Find recovery. Find community.
at Bradford.
You're watching The Attorneys, a paid advertisement brought to you by the law firm of Hollis Wright.
Welcome back. You're watching The Attorneys, and we're so glad to have you with us as we're talking about trucking companies. Want to get back over to DW, and we're talking about being involved in a trucking accident. As you pointed out, 80,000 tons as opposed to my 4,000-ton car. But if I am involved in an accident with a truck, how long do I have to actually file some type of lawsuit so that I can get some compensation if I'm injured?
Yeah, good question. So that's referred to as the statute of limitations. And basically that's in a lot of injury cases, including 18-wheeler cases, it's 2 years from the date of the accident. Now, some people get confused about that. It's 2 years to file the lawsuit. That doesn't mean that, if you get it resolved without filing the lawsuit within a year, that's fine. Or if you file the lawsuit a year after the accident, sometimes I have clients say, well, it's been 2 years. Well, your lawsuit has already been filed. So that preserves your claim perpetually until it's resolved in court.
And that's a great point. I know you have the same thing, and you see the same thing that I do, which is we have clients a lot of times that are like, look, I don't want to relive this by filing a lawsuit. I want this case to be resolved before we have to file a suit. And if we have to file a suit to be able to maximize what the value of the case is, I don't want to have to go to trial and relive this whole thing. Right. I know you see that a lot. And I mean, that's kind of the beauty of what we do for a living is we're able to work our way through that process and sometimes resolve cases for people before it even goes to trial.
Absolutely, especially in your car accident cases. A lot of times, we're having to file more lawsuits, not because we want to, because sometimes the insurance companies are being tough with us. But a lot of times in your regular car accident cases, you can get your case resolved without filing a lawsuit. It's probably a good idea to file a lawsuit. More often than not, in my trucking cases, I do file. Because you do get subpoena power, and it's so much that goes into a trucking accident case, as you know. Sometimes you need experts. There's data to retrieve. So there's so much that goes into it.
Talk a little bit about the importance of getting a lawyer on your side through a contingency fee contract immediately after a commercial vehicle accident, and what happens if you don't with these rapid response groups that come in on behalf of the trucking company and get moving quickly. Talk just a little bit about that.
It's so important to get an attorney as early as possible, especially in an 18-wheeler accident case, because of the black box data on these trucks. The trucking company is going to have a rapid response team immediately. Depending, sometimes the same day, certainly the next day, they are retrieving data from these trucks, and you really want to get in there to make sure they're not, fudging anything, they're doing everything right. The sophistication of these electronic recorders, if it's a Volvo, there presents a whole host of different issues because there's only so many companies in North America that can even retrieve that data.
Yeah.
So people like you and me can, certainly assist the client with that, and especially the cost.
These rapid response teams are on the ground day 1, day 2, taking statements of officers, downloading black box information, communicating with witnesses, and trying to build a defense from the start. And that's not to say that those defenses aren't going to be accurate and important and significant for their defense, but you need someone on your side or to be able to do the same thing to assess and evaluate kind of what happened, what are the circumstances. And let me tell you this, and I know DW sees this too. 5 years ago, I would have told you only a few of my cases have video involved from a tractor trailer. Today, I would tell you about 80% of my cases have video involved. And here's another thing. Not just video in a tractor trailer commercial case. In regular passenger vehicle cases, we have automatic cameras that come on before accidents oftentimes. So what DW and I ask for in the course of discovery and through the subpoenas that he's talking about has changed drastically over the years to make sure we know. We have a case right now where there's a two-way video, one of the driver and one of the road. And it's a rear end accident with a driver texting. And it's evident on the video. Had we not seen that, did we not have that, the value of the case for the poor occupants involved would have been totally different.
And it's not just the video in the vehicles that come on. You've got cameras all along the road. They can track you, and you get, and some of that video is important to use in the cases. I bet you guys use that. I'm also wondering how much insurance coverage do these trucking companies have to have when they've got people on the road, because that impacts what I'm going to get if I am involved and I need compensation.
Right, so there are federal regulations that dictate that, which is the minimum is $750,000. Most often, I think we see minimum coverage of $1 million. I mean, most companies are going to sell $1 million policies. There are circumstances where you can have umbrella coverage, where you may have access depending on the severity of the injury. Sometimes it causes death and you get into that range. If they're carrying hazardous materials, that number could get even higher. So.
And not just that, DW is exactly correct. A lot of times if you're carrying passengers, for example, we had a bus case years ago where if you're carrying passengers, that limit can go all the way up to, 3, 4, 5 times what, sometimes up to $5 million compared to a traditional $750,000 or $1 million policy. Talk a little bit about, I know there's someone here watching saying to themselves, we have a commercial accident in our family, someone was injured. I am fearful that calling a lawyer is going to require me to have to pay a bunch of money. And I know that the company has already got their own lawyers. I can't compete with them. Talk a little bit about that in the contingency fee contract and why it's important for them to trust what we're talking about right now.
Right, so contingency fees are one of the great things about what we do, personal injury law. No one will owe us a fee up front, so we don't charge by the hour. Our fee will come only if and when we obtain a financial recovery for the client. In addition to that, all of the expenses, we talked about hiring experts. That can get costly, it can get pricey. We will front the money. We will front the money for the expenses on that. So you don't have to worry about paying for expensive experts, paying hourly attorney fees. We all handle that up front, and we only collect a fee if we're successful in the case.
I know we're going to break. When we come back, I want to unwrap that even more, but I want to talk a little bit about what a typical day in DW's life looks like when a trucking case comes in and the process that he uses to properly evaluate the case to get it moving quickly to make sure that that person's protected. Because a lot of times I tell clients, and I know he does too, hey, let me handle the business side of this case. You handle the emotional and the mental side of dealing with your injury or the death of someone in a family. We're going to handle the business side. When you put your head on the pillow, know that that's being being managed and handled, and I know he does that. We're going to talk a little bit about what that process is.
And I would assume that that client has some front work to do before you hand it over.
For sure.
Yes, because we have some responsibility as well. We're going to step away right now, but want to remind you that you can scan that QR code on the screen. That gets you in contact with someone at Hollis Wright. It's quick, it's easy. All you have to do is scan it and you'll reach someone. And that's private, and it's confidential, and it's free. So go ahead and do that. We'll take a break. We'll continue this discussion on trucking companies here on The Attorneys when we come back. Stay with us.
Thank you for watching The Attorneys each Sunday night, where we come to your living room to provide free legal advice in a confidential, off-air setting. Unfortunately, with the number of calls, texts, and emails that come in during the show, we can't always get to everything. But know this, Hollis Wright is open all week long. You call us at 844-LAW-TALK and we're going to answer your question for free. Thank you for watching The Attorneys, and we look forward to seeing you and talking to you soon.
If this place could talk, it wouldn't. It would sing and celebrate all of our stories of addiction recovery, victory, and community. This is Bradford Health Services. It all changes here.
You're watching The Attorneys, a paid advertisement brought to you by the law firm of Hollis Wright.
And welcome back to this discussion on trucking companies. You are watching The Attorneys. And Josh, as we were going to break, there's some things you said you wanted to unravel as we get to this last segment.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about, explain, I know we see a lot of times, we see people at their worst moment. And that is the unfortunate part of this job. But we have an opportunity to manage that worst moment for them from a business perspective quickly. Give me a typical example when someone comes in, kind of how you get this process rolling and how you get letter of preservations out and you start trying to gather evidence to determine what happened and to rebuild a case.
Yeah, great question. So the preservation letter or spoliation letter, as we call it, that's the first thing. So we want to overnight that letter. I know I'll overnight the letter oftentimes. I'll look up the registered agent address of the trucking company, overnight the letter, asking them or informing them or demanding that they preserve the vehicle. And that means that they take it off of the road, they don't use it for any other jobs until I can hire an expert to get to that location to download the black box data. That data will tell me how fast the vehicle was going, what direction it was going in. Important information about the accident. That's the most important thing. From there, obviously, we want the client to treat, and we'll get those records when it's appropriate. But the most important thing is to get that preservation letter out there so they can preserve the evidence so that the trucking company cannot get rid of that black box data. That could be crucial to proving your case successfully.
So DW's right, great start right there on letters of preservation. Think about how complicated these black boxes can be at times too, and how the technology can benefit us. Let me give you just one example, Art. Mm-hmm. Some of the black box technology now allows you to determine whether or not there was side collision avoidance alerts in the vehicle at the time someone pulled over into a lane. And so you can cross-reference the timing of when the accident happened based on changes of speed and what's called delta V changes, and compare that with potential side collision or frontal or rear collision avoidance systems to determine whether or not that commercial driver was aware or should have been aware that there was an imminent accident if he paid attention to what he was doing. And so that's just an example, one example of many where technology helps lawyers like DW and our firm handle these cases.
Well, I'm listening to what you can get, what DW explained, what you can get from a black box. What other documents do you need for your case from your client?
Well, from a client, obviously the medical records, but that kind of comes later, depending on the severity of their injury. I have to wait until they finish treatment. But they will need an authorization I typically have my clients sign a medical authorization so that I can have access to their records. Obviously, we need the police report, get that as soon as possible. A lot of times we can get that online as long as we have permission from the client. So if they don't have the accident report, it's fine, we'll get it online. Insurance information. Even though these insurance companies, for trucking companies, they provide large coverage, you never know when you may have to get into an uninsured motorist additional coverage under your own insurance policy. So it's important to get that. In addition to that, you may have medical payments benefits under your auto policy. So those are a few of the things that I need from my clients. If it's a death case, then clearly we would have to open an estate, things of that nature.
Talk a little bit too about when you're starting to gather documentation related to the commercial driver. You're looking a lot of times, for example, and I know you've had cases like this where someone has a syncope episode and passes out while operating a commercial vehicle, or a vehicle that is carrying individuals. I've had one carrying them to a nursing home facility that passed out because of a syncope episode, or you could have a heart-related condition and have a heart attack. Those types of things happen. How important is it to go dig and find medical documentation and whether or not someone maintained their medical requirements to be a commercial vehicle driver?
Right, that's a very good point. So you do want to, again, and that's an importance of filing a lawsuit, because you may not have access to that. So with the lawsuit, you have subpoena power, and you can sort of subpoena those records to make sure that they were in compliance with all those things you just named. In addition to that, you want to dig into that employment record of that driver. The broker who connected the driver with the actual route could possibly be liable if they booked someone for a load, to deliver a load that wasn't qualified to deliver that load. So it's a lot to uncover in these cases.
Talk also a little bit about this concept of agency. People have probably heard it, but let's just talk just briefly about that and how a commercial entity can be responsible for the actions of their driver itself.
Yeah, respondeat superior.
Yeah.
Essentially, if that driver is in the line and scope of his employment, then the company that he's working for at that time of the accident will be also responsible for his or her actions. So that's it in a nutshell. Very rarely, if the driver is on a break and he's not performing job duties, then that may be a way to escape liability. But as long as that driver is performing his duties as a truck driver for company ABC, then company ABC will be liable as well.
And one of the critical issues there is that you need to get a lawyer involved, because there are also circumstances where insurance companies sometimes will try and claim that they're not responsible for covering certain claims based on the conduct of the driver. And so you need to make sure you've got a lawyer that can kind of unwrap that stuff. D.W. Scott, great job. I know you do a ton of this work, and I'm so glad every time we get to have you on to be able to discuss it. You've done a really good job of really just kind of explaining this to the viewers. So thank you.
Hey, I appreciate
your time. Yeah, absolutely appreciate your time.
Good to see you again, D.W.
Good to see you, Art.
And on behalf of Josh Wright, everyone at Hollis Wright, we always thank you for joining us here on The Attorneys. And we're going to queue up another show for you. Another great show lined up for you next week. So make sure you join us again, same place, same time. We'll do it again.
Thanks for watching The Attorneys, sponsored by Hollis Wright.